All right, now, so we got all this connected up, and we got the 24-volt system removed, 48-volt system installed, hooked it all up. I was working on getting the BMS from the batteries to communicate with the charge controller, and I had it set on a manual user mode with some of the default settings, and all of a sudden, pop, it blew, which I mentioned in one of our other videos. But I'm going to go ahead and get a little more in detail about what happened and exactly what had to be done to get it addressed and taken care of. So this is the new wiring that connects to, there it is. That is the new inverter. I haven't been able to get the inverter charge controller to communicate with the BMS on the batteries. I tried plugging them in through the different cables on the different connections on both, and it won't communicate with the BMS for some reason. So so basically, when the system was all connected, it was getting a good charge, batteries were full, and then all of a sudden it started beeping at me. I came and looked, and I thought, oh, it's beeping because the batteries are full. So that made sense to me, that it would make a little tone. So I didn't pay no mind when I heard the beeping. I looked, and it looked like it was okay. And then I heard a couple minutes later some more beeping, which I ignored because I thought, oh, we used some power, batteries aren't full, back and forth, probably doing that. And then all of a sudden I heard the big pop. Power went out, and it was making lots of noise. Beep. Very annoying, very irritated because there was no power. All right, so here's the update. That system is back. I had to get that wired back in so that we had that, along with the power from the generator now. But if you notice, we've got circuit boards out here, and that guy, I'll show you some specific details on that. But look, there's our new inverter charge controller all in one. So I found a wire that was routed here. You see that burnt piece right there? It shouldn't have been routed in through there. That was this wire, which is the neutral for the AC output, which means that makes perfect sense why we were getting no AC output. This section here, this part, when I put it all back together, there's little tabs that'll hold that to protect that section separate from everything else. But basically, that's the charge controller section. The inverter section here had all the MOSFETs and controls. This is good. That's good. All the wiring through the rest of this all looked fine. I checked all the little small circuit boards and everything else. Nothing else looked to be any trouble. But let me show you what it did here, because this is where that wire was coming through, that plastic piece, and it blew those two MOSFETs. Also popped that. I'm not sure what exactly that is for, but it shouldn't look like that. It should look like these ones. And then on the opposite side here, all those MOSFETs blew. So yeah, this board is bad. I was in contact with the company that we bought it through. It does have a warranty. Looks like a QC problem. They didn't check that out right. The wire was routed incorrectly, and it caused a malfunction that blew out my AC output. So now I'm waiting on a response back on what our timeline is going to look like for getting a new power board. That's that one I was just showing you. There they are. So that's one. There's one new board. And there's the other new board. There's the old bad one that burned up. There's the new one. And this guy here. That's the old. Now, this one I didn't see anything obviously wrong with it. But they sent me a replacement for it just because you never know. I mean, that is good service from the company to send me both of these, even though what I told them was just that one. So I'm impressed with that. Actually, I'm very impressed with the fact that they sent me both, and they got it sent here very quickly. Less than a week from the time I finally gave them the specifics to the time it showed up. So I'm gonna put it back together now. So we're not connected to the house with this yet, but we got it all back together and it looks like it is working. I don't have any of the error messages that I had before. It is communicating with the batteries. The batteries are pretty much still fully charged because they don't really lose a charge when they just sit around. So yeah, what I'm going to do next is connect the solar panels. And then after I have that connected and I make sure that looks good, then I will unhook the old system and hook up the new one back to the main breaker. And here is the current state of affairs. So let's do a rundown of what it is and how it's working. Our two batteries are connected parallel. So you got your negative here, down around to negative there, and then that negative goes into there, and then the positive there comes down and around to the positive here, and then that goes up to there. I got my communication thing figured out. It was kind of a matter of where those were plugged into, so those communicate with each other through that cable there and there. And then this is Alpha 1. That's the one that does the communication to the inverter, and that goes from here into the BMS connection there. Circuit breaker for AC is turned on. Inputs from solar panels are here. I am only using it as a single string of panels. I didn't go with the double because it actually is not that high of an input that I needed to split it, so I ran it on one with the ground here. And then here is your AC output, output 1, output 2, black and red, and then the neutral. I use this yellow and green wire for the neutral, and that's wired into this circuit breaker panel just like you would have a normal 240 input with a hot 1, hot 2, and a neutral, and ground, and then wires go out from there all over the house. So because of the lighting, I'm trying to get this right. I use my handy dandy little probe here to point at stuff, but that symbol there is showing us that we have solar power coming in. That little symbol is for the charge controller, letting us know that the charge controller is working as it's supposed to. And then you can see the arrow here is going to the battery. That little box there has got 4 bars, and those 4 bars indicate a 25% increment of charge. So right now we're above 50 and charging. So you see the top 2 are flashing, so it's charging. And then the other arrow, that line is coming across, and that's indicating that the inverter, that's what this other box here, that symbol is for the inverter. And again, this thing doesn't want to focus properly. I don't know if that's better or not, but we'll try it. So lithium ion, battery is charging, inverter is inverting, charge going out, power to the house, to the load, and this little bracket on this end over here shows the percentage of the load that's being used, and right now it's below 25%, very, very low. As they use more stuff, you'll see the little bars go up similar to the battery concept for your percentage of load. So our battery is at 54.4 volts. Output is 240 volts. And that's the simple little readout on the display for the inverter. But we also have this, it's called PV Keeper. You may not be able to see very well on this either. Again, looking at these screens with a camera doesn't always work well. But you can see the action of the power flow, I guess. And in this case, those green arrows are showing power coming from solar through the charge controller slash inverter, and it goes to the battery. And then you also see the arrow from that going to the little house symbol. So we're getting our power coming in, and that power is going to the house. This symbol here is the grid if we were tied in, but we're not. So you see there's nothing happening. It's not lit in any color. It's just off there, not hooked up. And then this is allowing us to monitor the input. So about 2 kilowatts, which is pretty decent. That's about half of what they can do maximum. But it is winter time and they're not at a perfect angle, so I'm happy with that amount. We're using about 150 watts of power right now, which is very little. 2.4% of our load capacity. And down on this side you see the batteries, 54.4, which is 67% full. This morning Mrs. Howell did a load of laundry, used the dryer and everything. We had 80-something%, and of course it used some of the power, but we still got plenty of power in there and more coming. But I want to show this real quick. So this is pretty good little board that gives you the main part I like to look at on this that I can monitor is the power output. So right now it's recording every minute, right? And if I scroll down, it's average around 200 watts is all we're using. That's with the refrigerator, lights, TV, all the normal stuff that we're doing. Sometimes it's up at 240, sometimes it's down at 177. Right here it's at 313. But it kind of averages right around 200 watts. And every so often, boom, here we go. This is where I can see what we're doing when we have larger loads. So 5.6, 5.7 kilowatts. That was a dryer. It's an electric dryer, and that's what it uses to dry the clothes, is about 5.7, 5.6 kilowatts. Actually, it uses about 5.5, but again, we're still using the other stuff, so that's why we're at 5.7. But you can see that ran for about 40 minutes, and it documented all that. And prior to that, we were down in the 200 range. So that's a good little program right there, and we've got that plugged in through the USB directly into the charge controller. The system is now fully operational. Everything is running like a charm. When those fans kick on, it is a little bit loud, but that's because we don't have that room finished and there's no walls closing it off, so the sound just radiates right out under the stairs and into the rest of the house. But other than the sound of those fans kicking on when we're using a larger load, there is no complaints. So it's good to go now. Appreciate you guys checking it out. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into, you know, what we're doing off grid. We produce our own power and we're able to still do pretty much all the normal stuff that the average American home can do. It's not primitive, it is just off-grid.